Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Memento Futurum podcast. This is Vanessa, your host, and today we are speaking with Michelle Bias. A little bit about Michelle before we start. Michelle is a co-founder of Tulsa Storyslam. She is an intergenerational trauma expert, systemic constellations practitioner, and writer. Michelle holds a master's degree in transpersonal psychology. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Vanessa. I am very excited to be here today.
Me too. We met in grad school, so and have kept in touch throughout the years, and it's been really wonderful to see how you've grown and to see all the different things that you've done since that time, and to learn from you. I did just a little fun fact. I did learn plant dyeing with Michelle, and that's something I still do. So it's flower work is really special. Yeah, so. I really wanted to have you on to talk about your book, String Theory Alive. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's a big movement for me.
Yeah, I'm like so smiley about it, but I'm like, it's really, that's what I mean. Like, it's really wonderful and beautiful to see the people that you started with, like, grow and like you created something just so incredible. And reading the book, I haven't even finished it, but I've just kind of taken the book bibliomancy style, like just opening it and letting it tell me what I needed to see. And it really feels like it just like gave me everything. Like, okay, this is the one that I needed to hear today, and this is the one that I needed to hear today. And today I read about your dad and the section about your dad. And I think I don't want to spoil things for the readers. But I think the one thing I want to just start off with saying is just how rich and how skillfully you interweave timelines with this book. Just merging different pieces from your younger self to now, and just like that is incredible to me. And I think that it makes it really relatable and very it speaks to the human soul. And that's what I was just like really touched by, that like, wow, like I can feel myself. Obviously I haven't lived your life, but I can feel myself in different pieces of what you were bringing forth. So just wanted to open with that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's some of the feedback I've had from people about that like they have to slow down in order to time jump with
Hmm.
me. And then at the same time, they notice that their body, their nervous system is time jumping from their own personal narratives with it.
Mm,
Right.
yeah. So creative question, like when did you first hear the call to bring string theory to life? Like if there was one.
Great question. It really is. During COVID, I felt the call to be creative, like during lockdown, in a way that I wasn't,
Mm.
outside of plant dyeing and working with fabrics or photography or anything like that that I've always done. And so I joined with one of my mentors and coaches a writing studio. And at first, I think it was like 8 weeks and then turned into 3 months. And then when we realized there was a bunch of us kind of in there for the long haul, it became, a year writing studio. And I
Wow.
am still currently in that studio.
Wow.
Right. And so this book, I don't think I joined the studio to write a book. Right. Like I,
Hmm.
I never said, oh, I'm going to go write a book and I'm going to write a book about this. I never joined the studio for that. It was a creative call. And this book went through several iterations. The second one, a play, to where there was a lot of dialogue, a lot of voices. The my colleagues in the writing class, I would give them different parts because we always work our pieces in the studio.
Mm.
And so it was really great to hear it. But at some point, and I can't tell you when, I took all the words, all the iterations, and they somehow came to these like postcard style images that you see in the book, these vignettes,
Hmm.
where you're right, you can read it from front to back, or oracle style, you can flip to a page and there's something there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So,
Right.
tell me about this play moment. I'm a
Mm.
fan of the theater, so I'm just curious, like how that kind of maybe it was like a liminal space, like how that helped midwife it.
Yes, I would say. Okay, so you mentioned I facilitate family constellation work. And for me, family constellation work is how we kind of like throw it all out there, everything that's been separated, all the family members, all the pieces, and then we bring them back together for a new image, a new perspective, something new, right?
Hmm.
I think that the play portion of what this was a way that I threw all my parts out there,
Wow.
and then I started gathering them back in,
Wow.
casting my nets and bringing them back in.
Hmm.
And it came into this voice, which, again, I didn't set out to write a book.
Hmm.
I didn't know that I was writing poetry, right?
Hmm.
I didn't know this was prose poetry. I did write a little poetry when I was younger, and I found some things around the house here recently where I'm like, oh, I was like 12 when I wrote that,
Hmm.
but I lost that. And
Mm.
but I think that poetry is where I find myself most comfortable. I have a second manuscript that is finished and at the editor. So
Wow.
it's more in the tradition of like an epic poem. But I
Wow.
like this style of writing. I really do.
Wow. Well, congrats on that too. Oh my God. I can't wait to read that one. Um, I'm inclined to ask two questions right now that are just coming to me, which is, can you tell us more about family constellations? Just to kind of give more of like a framework, because I think it's such a powerful tool, but
It
just
is.
like from your experience and expertise.
Yeah, so I do think it is a way that again, we get everything out there in
Hmm.
terms of image, and especially when working with a group, you get to use objects and people, and for me, it's a way that we take the inner images that we're holding about ourselves, about our family, whether they're true or not, right?
Hmm.
Like, and they're true to us. So, but it's a way that we take those inner images and we kind of put them out there and we unfold them like a map,
Wow.
and we start moving, everything around so that we get a new image, not to necessarily say the old image doesn't exist or to erase it, but
Hmm.
to rather integrate it. So rather than it just being this place in our lives where we're in complete resistance and trying to push it away, it now gets to be part of our path, part of our
Hmm.
journey,
Hmm.
right? With whatever. And for me, it's that, place to be like, this is where we take our wounds and we turn them into some kind of medicine or wisdom, even if it's just for our life and our steps forward for our own future. It doesn't have to have so much power back there.
Yeah, I feel you so much as an alchemist as you're saying this. And it's just striking me to say right now, I'm just so happy that I learned flower dyeing and plant dyeing with you with the your family constellations expertise, because I don't carry that. It's piquing my interest right now. Like, whoa, that's really sounds really transformative. But I'm likening it to the process of creativity with plant dyeing, and
It is.
I feel like you have to release so much control with plant dyeing and like put it all out there, as you're saying. And
And in fact, I spent all of Monday plant dyeing and just the whole day. But no,
yeah.
it's the same way because, in the place of me saying like, we put the image out there and we unfold it,
Hmm.
we can gather it back in, with the plants on the fabric, you
Yeah.
know, you're putting them out there. You don't know what happens after you fold them back up and they
Right.
go through their alchemical process, if you will, and then it starts to unfold again. And I think that that is the process in constellation work. Is wherever we decide to leave that image in a
Hmm.
in a therapy session or one-on-one guided visual imagery, you kind of bring it back together where you can at the moment, and then it gets to unfold on its own, right,
Hmm.
over time,
Hmm.
and you don't know what it starts to unfold into. So I've always heard people talk about plant dyeing being like slow fashion,
Oh,
and
interesting.
right, because
Yeah.
you can't do it quickly, right?
Yeah.
A lot of muscle and a lot of patience. But it's the same thing with constellation work, or in my opinion, anything that's about self improvement or movement or growth, is that we do have to realize it is slow, and we have to be kind and gracious to ourselves in that.
Hmm. Hmm. That's that wisdom is so present in this book, and um, just even the cover. So just bringing it. Is this you?
It is. It is. And it's a snapshot, actually, that a good friend of mine took when we were at Turks and Caicos, and she caught me out there in this moment by myself. Just, when I'm with an ocean, I go out and just like
Hmm.
release a lot of things and,
Hmm.
kind of take in the vastness of the ocean. And, I was out there by myself and she caught that. And the book went through a few cover um, varieties, if you will. And
Hmm.
then I just decided to leave it very simple as this.
Oh, it's so perfect. It's so perfect. And the thing that I noticed with the book is like, I mean, you're talking about your the whole span of your life. And I love that it's a memoir, but I love that it's poetry.
Yes.
Because I don't know, I personally have never been inclined to read memoirs. Usually they're very chronological, and that's a way to tell stories. But yours really is so unique to me, and how you take your life, this vast ocean, and then you're creating grounding points with the vignettes, and I it made me really emotional to read that, and like it's making me emotional now because I'm like, oh, that's teaching me something
Mhm.
when things just feel so big and like kind of insurmountable in a way in life. And it's just like, oh my God, like just different things that you said in your book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could feel myself swimming in this and this moment of my life and this grief and all these different things. And how just the way that you're writing is healing. It's healing to read it because it's like, oh, you're creating these stitches in the fabric or these grounding points, you know, and there's a sense of integration with each one that even if you were to read this book as like a text for human healing, for soul healing, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just so many angles. You know, it's just it's really touching. I don't think I've seen something like this in a really long time that's touched me like this. So that's where I'm like, you know,
Thank
thankful.
you.
I'm thankful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I don't know that I ever really thought about what was going in this book in terms of, by the time it came to this point, I had so much content.
Hmm.
Um, and kind of like how memory floats to the top of,
Hmm.
our minds, uninvited most of the time.
Right.
And we're like, oh, why did I think of that, or why did I think of that? And it's because it does hold power, right?
Hmm.
There's something about that, even if it's a metaphor, true to our lives, yet
Hmm.
a metaphor for something still going on in our lives. Like, and there's a few pages in here like, why am I bringing that forward? I used to think, and then I settled into it. But yeah, I think it is about, again, the scattering, the falling apart so we can come together again.
Hmm.
We can't really put, people say, at what point did you know this? Or what point, you
Hmm.
don't know, right? We live into that. We live
Hmm.
into it. We don't know at what point, whether it's writing a book or we get momentum to step into a career, or, we start our forgiveness process. If, for some
Yeah.
people going at that, I don't, for me, it was healing. And I don't know where you are in the book, because when you said like something about my dad, well, he shows up in a lot of different pages, but
Hmm.
this is about a healing journey with my dad. And I think and my mom in some ways, right? And in
Hmm.
a lot of ways, I've said it before that, this is a love letter to my parents on so many levels,
Mm.
regardless of what, my mom's stance is right now. Of course, my dad died in 21.
Mm. I'm sorry.
And well, I think that's, I say it in the book and you'll read it, is like, it gave me a gift to complete this. Like I started writing my story
Wow.
with him and then,
Wow.
right. And
Hmm.
then he died. And there was some permission in that,
Hmm.
uh, kind of graciousness from him that said, write your story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was at the part where you're talking about his transition process.
Yeah.
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 And one of the pages, and I don't want to, I'm going to paraphrase you because I can't actually quote you, and I can't find it very quickly, but you ask your dad about your name.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that moment?
Yeah. So in the hospital, he was in brain surgery, and I had just met a woman that was, if you will, a soulmate,
Hmm.
his first love. And she holds a lot of, space in the book as well. But she tells me that she named me, not my mom.
Oh, wow.
And right. And that she and my dad had a pact to name their firstborn daughter Michelle after the Beatles record. And so, she's telling me all of these stories, and I really am grateful to her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm really grateful to her. And, but she told me the story, and then, I took it all in. It answered so much about my life, right?
Uh-huh.
How I was kind of caught up, and again, constellation work, caught up in the entanglement of my dad and his first love. And first loves get a lot of credit in constellation works. Constellation work, we have to look at that.
Yeah.
But, before he got to a point where he couldn't respond anymore, I just said, "Is this true?" And
Mm-hmm.
said yes,
Wow.
and I was okay with it. Like that's,
Mm-hmm.
it makes so much sense. And I named my daughter Michelle. That's her middle name.
Oh my goddess.
So it's, you see how
Uh-huh.
the system unfold, these systemic pieces that you don't give any kind of thought to, and yet they're
Hmm.
playing a part.
Yeah. So she was at the hospital. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, yes,
They
she
stayed in
was.
contact, or did you find her, or?
Yes, it's a long, complicated story, more her story
Hmm.
than mine. So I don't really feel right in telling her story. But she
Sure.
was, and it was beautiful. And it,
Wow.
yeah.
I think what's really striking me right now is how I I don't know if everybody thinks this. Maybe this is my own belief or inherited belief. I don't know. But I feel like there in general, there's kind of like a these are the people that are important in your life, your parents, your siblings, the loves. And what you just shared to me is just so beautiful because it's really inclusive.
So inclusive. And
It's
I do not ever want to work with a client or work with a group where inclusivity is not key.
yeah. Yeah. Like who you're allowed to love or who you're allowed to express love with or who you're allowed to say creates meaning, like all of these things. The meaning making that you're telling is a grand story through the whole book, but even with what you're sharing right now, it's very transpersonal. I'm like I feel
It
the
really
transpersonal root, but that's just really beautiful. It's very Piscean, just like
is.
super unconditional love. Like, I love that.
Well,
I'm
the people we
happy.
exclude are the people, the people we reject and exclude, they're part of us, right? Aspects of us. And we're excluding, rejecting those same parts of us. So,
Right.
we do that with our parents. If, we reject them, then what part of us are we rejecting in ourselves?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
don't know, like part of my journey, I would say, is, the kindness and the grace to myself, the part that says I can include all my parts.
Right.
And, and
Yeah.
a lot of times people want us to hate who they hate, you
Right.
know, and I just don't want to play in that field any longer.
Yeah. No, it's a time for love. It's always been a time for love, but it's really a time for love, and peace. And I don't know why I'm like just feeling to ask you. So you and I'm like maybe you say this in the book and I've missed it, but you were born in Oklahoma.
Yes.
Okay, and you've been there your whole life?
Yes.
Okay. And you say in the book that your dad was in the fought in the war.
Mhm. Vietnam.
Wow. And what was your mom like? Or what is she like?
My mom came from a sibling set of four. She was number three.
Okay.
And she was a musician. She,
Wow.
most of my life that my childhood life, I remember, band practices with her bands in the house, or going with her, or even going to clubs and sitting backstage,
Wow.
eating a salad, drinking a Coke because I couldn't be out front.
Yeah.
Um, she traveled a lot with her music and with different bands. And, she was really creative. I
Wow.
even have a place in the book where I talk about that, this I feel like sometimes we all have these little talents and gifts that don't really come forward, but like she could sketch. Like she
Wow.
was an artist in that way, and that was not a part of herself she ever brought forward, really.
Hmm.
And I don't know, firstborn daughter,
Hmm.
uh, you know, I loved my mom, and I still do.
Hmm. And what was your dad like?
Uh, Controlling, as
Hmm.
you'll read in the book and get further, we had a very complicated, complex love.
Hmm.
Controlling, military in that sense. And, you know, he was all about teaching me things.
Hmm.
And again, from the book, he was very concerned about my safety while also being the one who harmed.
Hmm.
And so that's what.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard that many times.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a teaching for sure. Just listening to that as a parent
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm.
Always a lens to keep in my own personal awareness as well. Like, wow. Um, and with OK So, I know you've been doing that for a long time.
Yes.
And do you think that the book has relation to that part of your life? I mean, everything does, right? It's all
Yeah.
interwoven. But I'm curious about your work there and your play there. When did
Yeah.
that start? I don't even know the
Uh,
timeline.
Okay, so is on its 11th year, and it's a story slam that's fashioned after the moth
Wow.
here in Oklahoma, in Tulsa. We're a nonprofit. My co-founder, Brenda Pearsall, and I, we started this, I think, in 2013. That would make about sense.
Hmm.
And we have monthly open mic events based on a theme where people can get up and tell stories. And then we take our winners from each one of those months and they compete in a grand slam every April for like Tulsa's best storyteller.
Oh my gosh.
Where it weaves is that, you know, we often do curated events, but I've learned so much about the art of storytelling
Hmm.
and where people's vulnerabilities are and how important it is for people to have a stage and a place to like just get up and learn to use their voice,
Yeah. Hmm.
right? And we've had so many moments on that stage where people have confessed or came out about something, and it's a very powerful platform. Yes, a date night and people come out and have a good time, but it's also been, we have a community here for OK So, this the storytelling community that has, you know, grown over the years. And, people have really deep and rich connections, and they're doing so much with their storytelling. Like we've had storytellers go on to tell stories on the mock stage. We have people writing, we have people doing all sorts of different things. And,
Hmm.
and I don't know, like narrative is important to me.
Yeah.
It really is. And not that it has to be like such a finite thing, but narrative is important because I think we have to look at our narrative and then step back and look at it from here and here and here and flip it over and look at it from here and really see where we are binding ourselves sometimes to the narratives that aren't working for us anymore.
Hmm.
Resourceful, yes, at one point in our lives,
Hmm.
maybe not so resourceful to hang on to those narratives at another point.
Hmm. Wow, that's so powerful. Um, yeah, I wanted to ask those two questions back to back about your family and your parents, and then your stories because, like, 'cause I don't know your parents, and I'm so intrigued to hear that your mom was a creative, and then your dad was like kind of it sounds polar opposite, maybe in a way, maybe he was creative in his own way, but
Yeah,
um,
he was. He worked with wood. He was a chess player.
wow.
He taught my son chess from the time my son was like 4 years old, and my
Okay.
son is an incredible chess player. Um, but yeah, I think they were both creative in different ways. I don't think that my dad ever knew really how to step into his creativity, and
Hmm.
then I feel like my mom's creativity, and again, just my right. This is just my filter of them.
Sure. Yeah.
They may not have answered this way, but I feel like my mom's creativity and those of the women behind her, that it was shut down oftentimes due to different things, whether it was religion or
Hmm.
you know, not being able to just further it in whatever way they wanted to, whether it was through finances or, you know,
Mm.
children, family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like just seeing your story and the leadership and, the midwifing and the guiding that you do, through all of the different things that you offer. I'm just feeling like the intergenerational piece.
Yeah.
I guess when would you do you have like a moment, becoming conscious of that or knowing like, I'm like moving something forward in my bloodline. I know you talk about that in the opening of the book as far as like your the matrilineal line, correct? Like feeling it
Right.
there.
Right. Well, I will say this is I don't know that we have those like,
I know.
you know, push pins on a map that is this moment
Yeah.
that I do that.
I'm sorry. I'm like, how do I ask a question?
Um, You know, it's interesting because I feel like I've had so many different moments in my life from, you know, as far back as I can remember where I had the want to be creative. You know, I played jazz saxophone and then that had to stop
Wow.
because of something. And then, you know, so I've had these different moments. And then when I had children, you were talking about,
Hmm.
uh, when I had children and they started coming forward with their own creative gifts, and I could feel the generations behind me,
Wow.
like almost like it just rushed through me and landed like on them in these different ways. And I was
Wow.
like, you know, I actually went through, I would say, a time where I thought, and you know, again, going back to old narratives, is
Hmm.
that I thought creativity just skipped me, passed me by.
Whoa, really?
Right. Like, oh, it's here and now it's here in front of me. And like, why can't I grab a hold of that?
Whoa. Uh-huh.
So that's kind of what's, I would say my movement has been over the past, gosh, I don't know. I would say really strong in the last 5 to 6 years, but probably for 10 to 15 is just that coming into a place where I'm like, no, all beings are creative, like, and we are creativity itself,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
And it's up to me to bring those forward. And I think again, you know, that it's we don't feel like we have permission.
Hmm.
They didn't get to behind us,
Right.
or it's, you know, the voices that we gather along the way of like the art teacher who said, gosh, I hope you're never creative, right? I hope you
Oh,
never do anything creative in your life.
right.
You suck at this, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But we take in those voices, whether it's the voices of our parents or the voices of the teachers and the people around us.
Hmm.
So for me, it's been a like a releasing
Hmm.
of all of those voices and then a reclaiming of myself.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. My dog she's joining you.
Yeah,
She's,
she's saying it, or he or she is
she's,
saying, that's
yeah,
right.
she is. I'm like, if you can hear her. It's so interesting the bloodline work, the intergenerational healing that happens, and motherhood. Motherhood is that's a whole other probably TED talk, but
Yes, it is.
I can't I can't imagine you not being creative. What was that time of your life like? Maybe where you felt not as connected to what you feel is creativity.
Oh, very stuck,
Hmm.
very narrow living, you know, with worthiness pieces, unworthiness pieces being in there.
Yeah.
And, you know, stuck is a safety behavior. You know, you never have to make a movement. You can just stay stuck and feel sorry for yourself and stay in your victimization,
Hmm.
even if it's just a story that creativity skipped me, you know.
Right.
And so again, moving ourselves out of those fields where whatever it is that has us like entangled and imprisoned, realizing that it's us. Like
Hmm.
maybe this person stopped us back here at one point, but like who's stopping you now?
Yeah.
Right? Like taking that action from this adult place, like, okay, I'm stopping myself if I don't do this. And,
Hmm.
and going back to joining the writing class during COVID, um, is I don't know, it was like a push.
Hmm.
It was a push from somewhere that said, it's right. And
Yeah.
probably, you know, I've done so many things, as you know, in my life, like different therapies and modalities and
Hmm.
astrology and all the things that I love.
Yeah.
Yet I would say writing myself through this book, which I think in so many ways it wrote me,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was the most therapeutic thing I've done. And
Wow.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
again, not that the other things they built a foundation to be able to write.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it was just, it was very healing.
Mm-hmm. No, I can imagine. I would be curious if you would be interested in reading maybe just a little bit for us.
Sure.
I would
Sure.
love to hear you in your voice read
Okay.
this beautiful book.
Okay. Well, it's good and lucky for us that I already have some pages that are marked from the book launch I just had.
Yay, congrats on
So,
that.
yeah. All right. I'll start with the first page.
Okay.
I am tired of being brave, tired of hiding in the tall grass of Vietnam, my legs paralyzed with fear, not being able to drive alone at night or go to the grocery store or leave my house. I'm tired of trying to do something different when I have nowhere to go, knowing if I don't move, I might not live. I'm tired of not knowing the difference between danger and excitement. I am standing on an empty road surrounded by trees, knowing I am at risk and not being able to run, sweating, shaking, not breathing. I carry my dad's experiences without question, and somehow over the years it seems to have served me, led me down roads that have catapulted me to where I find myself today, straight into the arms of this woman I find myself to be. I have been fearless when I shouldn't have been. I have been courageous when no one thought I could be. I have kept moving when the paralysis was stronger than me.
Wow. Thank you for that.
You're so welcome. Mhm.
I don't even want to say anything. I just the thing I would say is it feels really relatable. I feel myself in it.
Right.
Moments, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I want
Thank
the listener to have their own experience and I don't want to comment too much.
you. Right. Right.
Yeah. It's so beautiful to hear it in your voice. Just the inflection and just like it's so rich. There's no I don't know a better word right now, but um yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very
And
thankful.
like, thank you. And like I said, it weaves so much of my mom and dad, right? Because that's where I come from.
Mhm.
And I come from their belonging, and they belong to their parents' belonging. And so,
Mhm.
my kids belong to my belonging. So whatever it is that they deal with,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, and I think that that perspective is one thing that I know I don't really think about too much. I don't know that there's that many people really talking about it. I mean, people are talking about their parents and, this or that. I think what's really beautiful about what your book's doing and what you're talking about and what you're sharing about from my perspective is how you're weaving them in and including them and you're not rejecting the parents because that's the thing that I hear about the most is like, oh, my parents did this or that and I don't like them for this reason, or whatever. I mean, I hear people say I love my parents, but there's more of the criticisms. And you're saying I came from them.
right. Yeah, I
And
came from them. And,
mhm,
again, if I reject them, any part of them, no matter what happened,
mhm,
right? So
yeah,
I am rejecting huge parts of myself. It's going to be really difficult for me to be integrated moving through the world if I'm using so much life force energy to reject them,
right.
to not be them.
Hmm.
And, obviously, I can't always say I've been in this place.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I may have a day, right? It's not 100% complete. We're always a work in progress. And
Hmm.
I may have a day where, it is difficult to do that, but at least I have the reference point of knowing how I feel when
Hmm.
I include them.
Right.
Um, I spent a lot of my life excluding them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a lot of people ask about this, so I'll just kind of say that is that, I'm not talking about baking cookies with our parents, right? And spending whole, I am talking about the integration, the energetic piece that internally lives within each of us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We may have parents who are not safe.
Right.
This is not about, oh, I came from you, so let me include you. And it's not about that. It is
Right.
about making peace, like for me, making peace for myself,
Mm.
where I came from, getting to a place where I can say, you gave me life. Thank you. I'll
Mm-hmm.
take what you gave. And now I'm going to turn to my life and I'm going to do something good with it. I'll take what you gave.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, maybe that's only a percentage out of that 100% of what a parent could give. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they gave me life and I have children,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to change that? How am I going to um, really stand in a place of if it had been different? Or I have children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm moving, I'm in the forward movement of life. My children are in the forward movement of their lives.
Absolutely.
I'll take what my parents gave and I'll do something good with it.
Mm-hmm.
A contribution in the world, or children, or both, or whatever it is.
Yeah. It's so rich. I love that you're talking about this type of family alchemy and that you're doing this work because I think that it's so needed in the world. And I think more places where we're talking about it and sharing about it and giving different angles and perspectives on how to approach things, you
Right,
know?
right.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, just the reminder around the where what you exile,
Yes.
what we think we're externally exiling, we are exiling in ourselves.
Yeah. And we feel so validated, so righteous in what we exclude,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
we have to, you know, we take that stance so many times because it keeps us in our victimization, it keeps us in our suffering, which reminds us that we're alive.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're in that mode, we are in survival,
Mm-hmm.
and survival will give us a really great purpose in life.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Right, and it keeps us from moving into, you know, living it, thriving, whatever words we each, you know, make
Yeah.
meaning out of.
Yeah.
But as long as I'm back here and I'm righteous in this, you did this, you did that, I didn't get this yet, whatever that is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually sabotaging my own movement.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it makes me ask the question, at least in myself, or just like a greater question, which is what else is possible? You know, when we start to step into that, what's possible? What comes from that? What wants to be born? What is that forward movement? What does it look like? Like, it gets exciting.
It does. And again, when you go through the book, you'll see this, but curiosity is a huge theme in this book. And I mean that with a capital C.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
curiosity, you got to get curious. You know, I don't know. It's about that potentiality that is out there. And, you know, if we only think we have two choices, right
Mm-hmm.
or left, then we forget we can actually go forward. You know, it's like if there are only two choices, I better have a third one because
Yeah.
I'm probably screwed either way of the
Yeah.
two. Like create, like forging a new path for yourself that is about including everything and the ancestors and the everything that they went through
Right.
so that we are here today, so that our children are here today.
Mm-hmm.
We forget that we're standing on their shoulders.
That is true. It is true. And would you say that your book is a veneration of your ancestors? How would you put it as far as the
um
ancestral piece?
I think it is an acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't go into great detail about their stories or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. But I think it's an acknowledgement and for me, an agreement, an acceptance
Mm-hmm.
of how life had to be in order again to get to this place that I am today. Because, you know, obviously I've had unwanted things in my life and unwanted things in my children's life, and yet I really would not change any of it.
Wow.
Because
Hmm.
I'm not sitting here with you right now. If any of that has changed, I am not sitting here right now getting to have this conversation.
That's true. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's really, really powerful what you're saying, and there's a lot of healing and acceptance through that message. Because like it, all of the strings, all of
Mhm.
the quantum moments that lead us here, right? And yeah, I think just the central thing that I would want to say about that is just like the gratitude. I feel what you are saying in my own life and through the book, and just the gratitude for getting to have this conversation with you in this now moment, and all of the learning that is in this book and that I've received, just the growth in this moment, just having the conversation. And then I'm so excited to hear, the feedback from the listeners because they're going to get to, feel it and just feeling that movement, you know.
Mhm.
But I'm just keying in that that movement is made possible because you made a choice. You've made a choice to really stand in that, you know.
Yeah. And again, I can't even quote myself. I say something in the book that I think that the only superpower I will ever need is the ability to choose.
Oh my gosh. I haven't gotten there yet. That you say something like that. That's amazing.
And,
Yeah.
and, and it's choosing, yes, the willingness to choose, the willingness to let go of whatever it has been, our suffering that identifies us,
Hmm.
right? I mean, I just think about like even leaving my marriage and not knowing who I would be outside of that marriage.
Yeah.
Not even what do I do, but like how would I identify myself if I wasn't identifying myself as to who I was in that marriage,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, and so I think we have to be willing to risk a lot, plenty, in
Hmm.
order to move into these places that for me, I feel has been a soul journey. Um, my soul calling me
Yeah.
forward. And yeah,
Whew.
it's not easy.
It's not
Worth it.
easy. It's worth it.
Worth it.
Hmm. It's worth it. So it takes a lot of courage, Michelle. So thank you so much. Wow, just blown away. As we're concluding here, is there anything that you'd like to share at the end? How do we find the book? Like, all the details. Of course, I'll be linking the things in the show notes, but
So my website is michellebias.com, which you'll
mhm.
have on there.
Yep.
And you can go to the book tab, but you can find the book on Amazon. And, of course, if you're local to Oklahoma, it's in some local bookstores here. I would love to get into more bookstores in other local areas because I'm all about supporting local.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I would really love to do that. But right now it's Amazon if you're not in Oklahoma. And then again, going to the website, my private practice, I work remotely and in person. I offer programs and dream courses, journaling courses. And so, you might find something out there. They might find something that interests them.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for doing this. This has been an
Having me on,
incredible pleasure.
reached out.
I saw that book come out and I was like, "Oh, we need to talk about this." Like it hit me. I felt it and the moment I saw it, and I just knew it was so powerful. And then it's one of the gifts that keeps on giving because, getting to have this conversation and getting to read the book and read the book again and again and again, it is that forward movement that you were talking about. And, yeah, just really, I'm just again really blown away by it. So thank you. And, yeah, thanks to everyone who's listening later.
Vanessa, really, seriously, I am so glad to connect with you in this way again because, we do go way back.
Yeah.
And,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
full fabrics and making the slips and everything for your
From
wedding,
my wedding.
these big moments
I
and
still have them. I have them all. I have them all. Oh my gosh. There's just so much of that. Like, I could just keep talking about it. Like, just the interweaving and the braiding and the movement. It's juicy for me. It's exciting. This is one of my favorite types of things to talk about. So, anyway, yeah, we'll conclude here. Everyone, thank you so much. Bye for now. And, Yeah, be well. Bye.